Ta-da! Tony, we're on. The red dot is in position. We're live. We're direct. How are you today, my man?
I'm good, thank you. How are you doing?
All the better for having this hot coffee. It's needed today. So yeah,
Is
very,
it
very
good
happy.
coffee?
Yeah, coffee with Kofi. I just had to have one. It keeps it on brand. But thank you so much. And we have so much to catch up on. And I know, as ever, you and me, when we get at it, it could go on for a bit. So without further ado, I'd love to do a brief introduction to your good self, and then we'll get into some of your story, which will no doubt be inspirational to many people, as it has been for me already. Is that right?
Thank you. It's very kind. So my name is Toni Meadows.
I'm going to do the introduction.
Oh, okay. You're going to do it. All right.
Yeah.
I'm. You see that? I thought you were just setting me up for that. Anyway, fine. I'll keep quiet.
No.
One of my points was I should listen more.
Fear not. So I'll jump in. I'll do an introduction, and then we'll be on. So welcome first and foremost to everyone tuned in, whether you're watching or listening today. Welcome to Coffee with Kofi, which is the podcast where we sit down over a virtual cup of coffee or some other soft beverage, and have real, honest conversations about life, career, and purpose. Today, I'm joined by Toni Meadows, who you'll hear from shortly for sure, a seasoned leader in financial services with a career spanning decades. Toni is the Chief Investment Officer at the award-winning BRI Wealth Management. But beyond titles and achievements, Toni's story is one of humble beginnings, resilience, and a deep commitment to giving back. In this conversation, I have no doubt we'll explore Toni's journey, the lessons he's learned along the way, and how each of us can find greater fulfillment by following our passions inside and outside of work. So grab your coffee or your soft drink. I saw you there, Toni. You've got what looks like some Vimto, and let's sip into that inspiration. So welcome once again, Toni. Thank you for saying yes.
Thank you, Kofi. It's a pleasure to be here.
Brilliant. Well, hopefully you're nice and relaxed, and as I say, it's a chat between friends, and it's not a Louis Theroux style interrogation at all. So you'll be grand. But taking us back to the beginning, I guess in a couple of minutes, it'd be great to know who you are, but also what early life looked like, and how it shaped your mindset towards work and success today.
Sure. I suppose the first point is I come from a loving family. So my dad was an entrepreneur for better or for worse.
Mm-hmm.
And my mum was often involved in whatever scheme he was concocting. So they were a very stable family background with clear sort of rules, values, and goals. So a lot of my early life was spent playing football, and my dad fulfilled the role of father and coach.
Okay.
So when the game ended, it ended for the rest of the team, but I went home and we relived it for the whole week. So, but I mean, the good thing about that was I played with a team that ended up my brothers, and my family was extended by the guys that I played football with, and my parents treated them as they did me. So it was a good, loving sort of environment that I'm from.
Brilliant. And from football and spending time with your dad there, and having that lovely, nurturing family that you had, was there a defining moment or opportunity that first pulled you into financial services? Because I didn't ask, but was your dad an entrepreneur within financial services or something completely different?
Not at all. Completely different field. So I suppose I was the first one to go to university. So that's one thing to sort of point out. Studied economics. So there's a good link to finance there.
Yeah.
But when I graduated during a pretty bad recession, so it was really quite difficult to get a start. I mean, it resonates now for the youngsters coming out of university. It's probably more difficult now than it was back then. But I sympathise because it was it was a difficult beginning. You know, even the accountancy practices were cancelling grad intake. So I kind of fell into financial services, my area of financial services. I actually started as a temp. And my first role was desk assistant at Mercury Asset Management.
Okay.
So back in the days, pre-hedge funds in London, when, you know, Mercury was pretty much the market. It had risen from being a small department within the library of Warburg's to becoming a FTSE 100 company and one of the biggest money managers in the world. So, but when I walked in, I'm just there covering maternity leave, and pretty much, if I'm honest, didn't know too much about the business. But after a very short period of time, became enticed by the challenge of investment management, and putting economics together with that opportunity really sort of formed the rest of my career, or formed the goals that I had for my career.
Perfect. It's a good introduction to how you sort of, as you said, fell into something which, number one, kudos, going to university when that was the first time in your family that had happened, and then two, finding your way in a field that I often find, unless you have someone that you know of or that can talk to you about it, you don't really know what you're getting into whenever you start your career. So yeah, kudos to you on both accounts. And you've had, from my research, a career spanning over 30 years. I think the last 22 plus years is being chief investment officer somewhere or another. Before we go on, many people will know what that is, but actually it would be lovely to hear from you what the day-to-day, month-to-month of a CIO role actually is, for anyone that might be thinking, oh, actually, I never knew about that, you know, in terms of sharing knowledge.
Yeah, I suppose the first thing is, what's an investment manager? So I mean, I always, people ask me, what do you do? So I invest people's money. Right. So somebody works for it, works hard for their money, and then we try to grow that for them, normally for their retirement, whether that's an institution or an individual. So there's, you know, it's a responsible job, because, you know, somebody had to work hard to get there, and we've got to try and protect it and grow it against the goal of beating inflation normally.
Right.
So we're investing in public securities, stock shares, bonds, government debt, those sort of things. So creating portfolios to in line with risk profiles to create an outcome over the long term. Because the first thing everyone says is, when you say you're an investment manager, they say, what can I buy and can you make me money?
Right. So short term.
It's short term. And the thing with investment management and markets, they become reliable if you take a long-term view.
Got you.
They can be unreliable in the short term, as we're kind of seeing now.
We are. We are. Yeah. So
then sort of putting that in the context of being the chief investment officer, I suppose then I'm controlling the framework for investment management in a company that's what they do. So that might be controlling a team or a set of investment managers, and it's sort of setting the tone. And I've built quite a few teams over the years, and I always say that the chief investment officer's job is to start and manage the right argument. So it's not taking all the responsibility as the individual investment manager might, but it might be overall responsibility within a framework and setting that framework.
I've got you. I like that. So start and manage the right arguments and discussions, which speaks to me about, you know, sort of having diverse viewpoints and being able to pick what may be the best way forward in any given moment. So what's one lesson that you've learned earlier on in your career that still kind of guides you today in terms of the work that you do?
I think it comes off. I think you're coloured by the first organisation that you work for. So I'm really glad that it was Mercury. So, and it was there as sort of the mantra was do the work, because you think it's a difficult thing that an investment manager does. You know, we're taking imperfect information now and then looking forward. So we've got imperfect information to start off with, and it's even more imperfect because we don't know what's happening next. but you're then on the balance of risk, making a decision and spreading those risks across the portfolio to navigate uncertain outcomes. Now, you could say, well, you could do that without knowledge and just be lucky. But the way you'd skew that luck would be to do the work and do it off an informed base.
Mm-hmm.
So the thing that keeps me going in investment management is the fact that you're never going to know it all. You've always got a mistake somewhere that you need to learn from.
Yeah.
The average investment manager is only right 51.8% of the time. So,
Right.
There's a lot of mistakes to learn from. And you're always learning something new. History doesn't repeat, it rhymes. So it's a good thing so I'm going to throw in a little snippets. I love listening to your snippets. So I'm going to try and tease out some Kofiisms with
all right, okay.
But yeah, I'll use some of my own along the way. Well, they're not my own. It's sort of everything's borrowed.
Yeah, stuff that you've gathered. No, I like that. I really do like that. And I think you see it often on the adverts for investment management firms where they say that past performance isn't any indicator of future performance, because as you say, who knows what is going to happen. I mean, the current global economic situation is wild. Like, you wake up one minute and something's going on, the next minute, oh, there's a ceasefire, and you just don't know what tomorrow will bring. But I like what you said about investing over the long term and taking that horizon. But I imagine that's quite tricky if you're coming closer to retirement than at the start of your career, where you're thinking, actually, I can afford to put it away month on month, lock it away, because I'm 30, 40 years away from wanting to draw down on that, versus
sure,
actually in a couple of years I really want to start to crystallize on those investments,
Yeah, I mean, but then time horizon is everything. That's the thing. So, and that will dictate the level of risk that you can take, and also it will dictate your expectations for what you can get back. Everyone wants all the upside and none of the risk.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, it's two sides of the same coin.
Yeah.
To get the upside, you got to take a risk.
Yeah.
And it all depends what you can afford to accept and what you're willing to look at. We all see markets. It looks like it can look very volatile, and it's even more volatile in short-term periods. So I suppose what we're trying to do, and the other thing we read in the press, and you see it on the press, when they say, well, billions wiped off markets. Well, it was a price on that day. If you didn't need the money back, you've not lost anything yet.
Right. Okay. So I guess it's when
it's just comparative statics. You get in at a price, you get out at a price. In between, the journey can look scary. But it's largely irrelevant, because it's all about that comparative statics of the point you get in and the point you get out. But that also makes it a challenge, because we've got to sift through lots of information and block out noise and try and find out what matters. And the fact that there's so much noise and so much information, it's a very difficult thing to do.
That is, and that actually brings me to the next question I had for you, Tony. So I'll keep us on it, because when you look back, of course, current climate is challenging, with different situations going on with wars and what have you, oil prices, etc. But looking back, what were some of the toughest challenges that you faced in the professional setting? And I guess it'd be great to understand how you navigated them, in case someone can borrow something from that journey that you went on,
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing being is because of the uncertain nature of what we do. So we are spreading risk. So although we're making decisions and positioning or whatever, I think the one thing I'd say is you've got to stay in the game. So if you bet on a binary outcome, you're either right or wrong. But if you can have a number of positions, and it would, when parts of the portfolio are doing well, other parts of the portfolio are designed to sort of counteract that, and vice versa. So you can actually create that smooth outcome. If you skew that too far one way, you lose your right to work. You're not good at it. So it is that. It is basically do the work, and in the positioning that you take, don't take undue risk, and stay in the game because of it. I think that probably helps. I suppose explain why I'm white-haired and 34 years in.
34 years, brilliant. It is brilliant. You know, I recently, quite ashamedly, only recently read The Psychology of Money by Morgan Housel, and it's one of the things that really stuck with me in that, which was, you know, you've got the fee and the fine. You know, the fee to get into an investment, where some people see it as a fine that they want to avoid, but like you say, you've got to, if you want to participate, you've got to pay something. But his thing was also around not taking undue levels of risk, because you do that, you blow up. There is no tomorrow. Everything must get sold, and your lifestyle changes dramatically. But to your point, yeah, if you diversify and you play the longer game, then you know you win. You can win again tomorrow, can't you? So no, thank you for that. That's really helpful. And you know, Tony,
I mean, one thing I say on top of that, a lot of people look at markets when they're going up and say, well, you want that's to participate in that. But sometimes making money over the long term is better to cut off the trough. So there's the Warren Buffett sort of, you know, be greedy when everyone else is fearful, and fearful when everyone else is greedy.
Got you.
So, you know, at the point when markets go through self-correction, if you can take some risk off the table at that point, you end up with a bigger number when the market goes back up.
Got you.
Yeah, so that compounding works for you.
Yeah.
So it isn't always about sort of, you know, being the top of the tree when the markets are doing well.
Yeah, I like the idea. I hear it being somewhat contrarian at times, but also just when you've done well, being able to sort of pull back and cash in some of that to use for something else, or reposition yourself. So that's really helpful advice. And I think I really wanted to leverage your 34 plus years experience, because having worked at senior levels across a number of organizations, BRI being the most recent, I'd love to know what you feel separates good leaders from ones that are great, you know, in your experience.
It's interesting because and it'll be different in the workplace compared to personal life as well.
Sure.
Which is, you know, in the workplace, I think you can be good based on an outcome. I think to be great, there's a more lasting impact, and I think that works in work and out of work. If that makes sense.
It does.
And I think often, particularly in investment management as well, it's the word great is bandied around too much. Sort of, you know, there's also a statement, and you know, Napoleon said of his generals, it's better to be lucky than good. Sometimes some very good investment managers have just been in the right place at the right time and ridden it. In terms of managing people, I don't think also, you know, there's a difference also between leading and teaching. Sometimes the leader makes tough decisions and annoys some people taking them on the journey, because the teacher's trying to build people. So there's some real nuances to that question, I think, and it depends on the context. Is it work? Is it managing money? Is it managing teams? Is it creating a lasting impact on people? And I think I can't. It's not embodied in any one individual. I think
I was going to put you on the spot a little bit, but you don't have to say who. But I wondered whether to make it more accessible as a question. There was a leader that you've worked with previously that you thought, great woman, great man, great person to work for, and that has stayed with you. So the longevity of impact has stayed with you. Do you have someone like that? And of course, I appreciate if you don't want to name any names in case someone says, how comes I didn't make that? But is there someone you could talk about from an anecdotal perspective and what they brought to the table, really, you know?
In the workplace, it's difficult. I mean, investment manager also, it's a lonely sport. Some of the best some of the best investment managers are unable to pass it on. In fact, they don't want to. It's almost they keep it to themselves.
Right.
So less so in investment terms. In terms of business leaders, again, it's fractional. Most of my influences are actually outside of the working environment.
Okay, well, I'll go with one of those.
I mean, with that, we talk a lot when we speak about values.
Yeah.
And values are very important to me. I think it kind of comes back to like the family background, and my dad was the strong figure that a lot of people sort of looked up to in the area by virtue of the sport and his impact on people's lives. But I've kind of then, and he was an army man by background, so I lived by pretty strict rules. But he also applied those rules to other people. And I've tended to seek out, I suppose inadvertently, people like that. I can learn from their values and their strength. And one thing that's taught me is that can be from multiple sources. But if I were to squint, that sort of diverse sort of group of people could be one.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
No, I like that. I think what I'm hearing from you is really there's a strong pull to call it conditioning that's now become preference or what have you, the values alignment, which, yeah, you're right. When we speak that is one of the things that we talk about often, great values, but then also I don't know, I tune into sort of discipline and the way that people apply their skills in their lives that you draw inspiration from. So it's difficult to pin it down to any one thing that this will make you a great leader. But for you, when you look at people that you gravitate toward or you want to learn from, it's those two things. It's the values and I guess the discipline that they apply in some area of their life that you think, you know what, yeah, I could add that to my game or work on that myself, Yeah,
it's admirable. I mean, so I mean, one of the things for saying to you that I like your mantras and the snippets that you bring to bear. I've got little mantras from everyone that I kind of have looked up to, and it's normally around sort of, and it's that motivation to do something. That's the thing. We can sit back and talk about things, but there's a guy that used to run my boxing gym. We used to say, well, look, don't just talk about it, start somewhere. So it's that sort of, and that's a very common, I suppose that sort of mentality is a common theme in a motivation point, I think, for me.
I think you're right there, because you and I both worked in a number of corporate organizations, and for some people it's a means to an end, and it's come in, do what you need to do and get out, and it's not about going the extra mile at all to expand or develop, and this is no judgment on that. They've got other things that they'd rather spend their time doing, but I really like the idea of starting where you are, using what you have to do what you can, but to the maximum of your abilities, because I think that's on the fringes of your abilities. That's when you break new ground and you become more, you become capable of giving back more and doing more, which takes me to my next question, but I'll pause in case you wanted to come back on that.
Well, the other thing about that is don't judge yourself, start, but then judge your progress. Go back and review. You can learn. I mean, you think about my job, you're not always right, so there's things to learn and to reflect on, and I think that's also a key process, because you're building a mosaic. You take an incremental benefit, review, move on, make another decision, and take something from the next thing you do. It's that. But if say it to young analysts, if you have an idea and you get it wrong, you're 100% wrong. How do you skew your average? You have another idea. Swing the bat again. You get it right, you're 50-50. How do you move in your favor? Keep doing the work so that you get more right than wrong, and And then eventually through that team structure, and this comes back to me sort of finding the right argument, and this is why I like diverse teams, by the way. Someone in the room is going to be right when you're wrong. So can you get the right dialogue so that together you can skew your luck?
Yeah, no, powerful stuff. Because you're going to miss if you don't take the shot. But I think what I really am enjoying hearing is the way that you create the conditions for the expression of that difference, because there are leaders in their environments where that isn't the case, and then the voice doesn't get heard, and then groupthink does what groupthink will do. Okay, yes, boss, we're doing that. Sure, we'll go there. Then no one's calling out the blind spots, which works for a bit of time, but then you get caught out because there was an unforeseen or undisclosed challenge. So kudos to you, actually. I know this is not about, you didn't want necessarily look for that, but kudos to you for creating the environment where people are encouraged to take a chance and see it as an iterative process and a mosaic. I like that visual of, we're putting the pieces together in this artwork,
Well, if they're right at that point in time, I'm borrowing that from my mosaic.
Yeah.
You've just improved me by challenging the thought process. And if you're right, you've improved me in a situation when I wouldn't have got there. And often it's sort of, so you want the devil's advocate in the room. If we all think that, if we're all thinking the same way at the same time, we're going to be facing the wrong way at the same time at some point.
Yeah.
And it comes down to as well, also, particularly within a team structure, you want to navigate by the bad news. The good news takes care of itself. I've actually worked for people that say, well, don't bring me the bad news. Well, that's not how you improve.
No.
And it's that. And I think all I do with the team is just, I'm not adding anything other than creating an environment where they can think, as long as they do the work, they get sort of, I suppose, the level of responsibility, and I back them. I always say that you'll have responsibility for this area. If it goes wrong, I'm the head of the team, I take the can. But, I'll still hold you to account underneath that, because I'm just taking heat for you. And that's it. And then if you pick the right people and put them together in the right environment, they grow.
Yeah, 100%. I think it's what people, at a basic human level, to be seen, to be heard, and to be valued for the contribution that you make within a community. And let's call the team a community, is a powerful thing, and it will keep people engaged and wanting to come to work, because actually deep down I think we all want to be able to make a difference somehow, some way, deep down. So you allow that. So let me flow us into our next question, which is beautifully linked to this, actually, which is I've certainly come to know, not from the beginning, but I've come to know you for giving back, and something that we've parlayed about a few times. Where does that drive come from, and why is it important to you? Because I suppose in the role that you have, you could be super focused on that and your team and your family, and that's that. But I know, and would love listeners to know, there is more to Toni than that. But I'd love to go back to the question, because in case you've missed it now that I've been rambling, where does the drive come from to do that, and why is it important to you?
I suppose there's loads of different levels to that within the work environment, I suppose, and what I've described around teams is, so I grew up in a coach's house, and I've been a coach of football since I was 18. I coached boxing. I suppose that kind of, it bleeds into other things. It bleeds into your work environment as well. And I suppose and we've talked about it, there's that two-way street. When you're mentoring somebody, you're learning from the mentee as well. They've got experiences that can teach you, and again, add to your mosaic. So there's a buzz to that. So that's the context around work. I mean, outside of that, it's sort of, I think also as you get older, you want to help more, and there's a Jewish phrase, was it, he who saves a life saves the world entire? It's like, that's powerful. And I think rewards are not just about getting paid. And sometimes doing the right thing in a situation gets you more of an uplift than someone giving you money for doing that. So, and it's only bits and pieces. So I think and this comes back to say, are you a leader or are you a coach? And I think I'm more of a coach. Coaches pass things on or create environments for other people to grow, and there's a feedback loop to that. It helps me, makes me feel better. So it's a little bit selfish as well as giving.
Yeah, no, I get you. So it's not purely altruistic and from the goodness of your heart, but I think you've tapped into something that I don't think is as common as it could be, because you give, but actually what I picked up on is you actually get a reward on two fronts. One, which is you will have a mentee or a colleague share something with you that actually inspires you, and there's that mosaic there. But also there's the feel-good factor of like, I'm helping create conditions for this person's potential to really stretch forward. And that must be great to see, like when you're coaching someone boxing or you've got a team of footballers and you actually manage to get them gelling and working together and making the right decisions at the right time to lead to the victories,
And you got to make a pathway to the connection. Well, that's also a nice challenge. We both know when you're talking to somebody, you'll find your level, and you find a level to unlock, and that might be might help you unlock yourself as well as the individual.
Yeah.
So there's it's a nice thing to know. I think I've surrounded myself with people like that, or I've been lucky enough to meet people that have done that for other people, and it's just something you aspire to. You live off that value. So I mean, I'll go back to my dad quite a lot, but some of the friends that I grew up with, imagine at a man's funeral and he's in his 80s, and there's a group of grown men there that all say, well, your dad didn't just coach us, he taught us how to live our lives. And that's quite a good accolade for a human being.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that I can aspire to that, but if you can chip off a little bit,
better
than not trying.
Why not? I saw something the other day, which was that I think it was Whoopi Goldberg said something along the lines that we are all here to carry little torches that light the way for others around us, and I think in doing what you're doing, absolutely. And actually, let me get into that bit, because I know some, but I don't know all of the different things that you do. But outside of work, how do you find channels to give back? Like, is the football still a thing? Boxing, like where are you now in terms of capacity to give back?
So I suppose generationally, my dad was my coach and I was my son's coach. So he now doesn't need coaching. So I'm not involved in football anymore. I mentor for a couple of organisations, one of which is a diversity charity, Elite Foundation. Sorry, shameless plug for something I'm involved in.
No, put it out there.
But I think that's a worthwhile organisation and cause, and sort of aligned to sort of the way my pathway in life and how I've grown up. I also mentor for the CFA, and every now and then I drive a car across Europe to deliver aid to Ukraine, which is I got back last week, and there's a group of guys currently in Ukraine driving the cars that I helped to deliver. So but yeah, that just resulted from me following someone else. There was a need, they were short of a driver, and I just got involved. And it's a good cause. So hopefully it will save lives.
Yeah. Wow. I do some things, but I haven't driven across Europe to do that. So do you sort of take the ferry across into France and then you drive across Europe to get there, or how does it work?
It's on behalf of a charity called Mission Ukraine. Basically, the aid is pretty much the car. So you're driving an old SUV, probably a 20. It's a bit like a Top Gear sort of drive. And in fact, they did do a drive in Ukraine. But you're taking an old car, a set of old cars, and you're driving them 1,900 miles to somewhere near the front. I've only done that once. You can stop at points along the way. So 1,200 miles is far enough to get to Eastern Poland. And the car is normally filled with medical aid. So the one I just drove last week was medical aid and fireman's outfits, just stuff that was donated that the Ukrainians could use. But the car itself is a big part of the aid, because that will then be used as a fast evac vehicle at the front to save a soldier's life. And they get shot up so often that they need a steady stream of these things.
Got you. Gosh, what a mission. So no, credit to you for doing that, because there's more than one way to give back, but that's something pretty special. So thank you so much. And I think in bringing it back around to the careers in financial services, particularly for someone who's, like we talked about at the beginning, it's a tough time out there. It's pretty challenging to get opportunities now with everything that's been happening. For someone who feels stuck in their career, what might be a practical first step that could help them move towards something more fulfilling? And that could be inside or outside work. Like what have you lent on that maybe we could share with others?
Well, I think we all need a plan. Again, it comes back to start somewhere, think it through, do the research, but crucially work out what A to B looks like. Everyone focuses on the Z. There's a lot of stages in between. You might not get to do all of that journey, basically, or the journey might change and divert. So talk to people, try to work out. And we've got better access to information now than we've ever had, but that's also access to misinformation as well. So take in a lot of different views, do your research, then work out where you start, really. And also work out whether it's practical that what you're trying to do as well, because for best will in the world, you might have to pick a different journey, but that doesn't mean you can't formulate that plan and work out what you're going to do.
No, I love that. Well, okay, good stuff. Keeping it moving because it is live. I want to reflect on that myself, but I'm going to keep it moving. And this is something that I do often ask, is around going back in time. And if you could give your younger self one piece of advice at the start of your journey, what would it be from all that you've learned?
Listen more, definitely. I'm getting better, but that's not perfect. So listen more, and at key points, back yourself. So that's said about sort of staying in the game, but then there are also key decisions that if you put more weight behind that decision, when it could be an outsized beneficial outcome to you. Now that's a hard thing to say, because we all would be filled with doubt at those points in time. But if you could find a way, back yourself more at key points.
Yeah, no, I like that. So when you say back yourself, is that having the strength of belief in your conviction? So you've got a feeling, a hunch about something to go for it and not doubt yourself? Is that sort of where
Well, I think a lot of it, but it's got to come down to, it has to be based off of the work that you've done. So recognizing where you have that potential edge. But if you don't do the work, it is just a hunch, and hunches are hard to back. So I think it's that you've got to go the hard yards in order to put yourself in a position where you're that far away from getting it right in a big way. If that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. It does.
So yeah, I think that's what I would say. But the hardest thing in those situations and the key points in time is recognizing it. And another thing my father used to say to me was, like, part of your most of the way to getting it right, if you can realize where you're getting it wrong, you got to. So there's all that. It's self-reflection to get yourself to the point where it might mean you might fail 4 or 5 times, but then at that 5th time, you're getting to the point where it's not just a hunch. You know that this is the right thing to do.
I love that. I love that. And I think for my last, actually penultimate question, I wanted to ask, in getting to the top, but also staying there, there's longevity is evident in your career, being a CIO. I wondered whether there were any tools or resources or networks that you've used that have supported that journey, because as with every pyramid, there are a few people at the top there, and it can be a lonely place. But it sounds like you've got a really collaborative environment going. But any tools or things that you've used to sort of help you on that journey, maintain the position?
It's interesting. I was smiling because I'm sitting here thinking, what top did I reach? I suppose just being around for this length of time is an achievement. But it's I'm always focused on, if you like, the next decision, the next stage of my development. It's only really when I look in the mirror I realize how long I've been doing it. I'm approaching this with the same sort of vigor and determination as I did on day one on anything that I'm doing. And I think within that as well, though, I suppose what that longevity gives you is it gives you exposure to lots of different people along the way. So you can pick pieces from or learnings from other people's experiences. You can call on a bigger network to sort of test out ideas and to learn from. So I think that's what I'll go with. I'll mention my mentee at this point. So I've got a mentee, Samson. You're gonna get a name check, and he's mid-20s, but I'm one of many mentors that he has. So he's seeking out people from different backgrounds that can help him grow quicker. And if I could wind back, I'd seek out people. He's not doing it in a sort of underhand way, but he's basically realizing the benefit of other people's experiences and to build himself quicker and better. That doesn't mean he's not going to make mistakes. He'll still make mistakes, but he can learn from other people's as well. And just seeing that has sort of inspired me as well. So it's kind of, I think it's sort of, it is realizing that you're not on your own, and there are avenues and there are people that you can seek out, or seek those people out to help augment your decision making, put yourself in a better position. And whether you get to the top, what is the top? What is your goal? What fulfills you? Is it helping people? Is it sort of monetary payback? I don't know. I mean, people are motivated by different things.
So many different things. Yeah, that's so true. No, thank you so much, Tony. I can't wait to digest this again and watch it, because I caught myself in moments just as you're saying things, going, well, and I just want to reflect on it. But I shall do that in my own time, at my own leisure. But before we go, I would love to ask, can't believe Q1 is literally almost done, 2026. How this happened, I do not know. But for the rest of the year...
Are you going to ask for a prediction? This is what everyone else does to investment managers.
No, but I'm not even... I wouldn't even ask for a prediction. That would be highly unfair of me to do that. But it's more from a personal perspective, to ask whether there's anything coming up down the line this year that you're excited about, particularly looking forward to,
I suppose much of the same, and just again getting up every day and learning something new, and meeting people, socializing. I'm sort of, I peaked a long time ago, so it's slowing the decline, and part of that is experiences. Learn something new, stay fit, keep people around you, be social, and the world's a beautiful place if you can put all that together. So one, it's that, just enjoy every day because it's a gift. And I suppose beyond that, I think it's always, again, keep challenging yourself. So I'm getting that positive feedback loop from the things that I'm involved in and the people that I meet. So I look forward to the next cohort of mentees, following the progress of past mentees, the challenge of dealing with markets, and that's going to keep me going.
Yeah.
Nothing specific. It's just more sort of, it's keep walking forward.
I really, really resonate with that. A friend of mine had a big milestone birthday not too long ago, and he said that he'd made an innings. I think it was 50. It was his, and he said that he's now at the crease. His eyes are up, and he's ready for the balls that are going to be coming his way, because 50 and not being out, he's got some longevity in the game, but he's really hoping that he can go even further with that. But with everything that he's learned, he wants to bring that into his next set of innings. And I love the way you talked more thematically. It's not, oh, I want to climb Kilimanjaro, I want to do, no, it's about enjoying every day, knowing that, to your point, 100% it is a gift, but also a theme throughout this conversation has been the growth mindset. And I know it's quite a trendy sort of phrase to say, but that constant curiosity and openness to learn, which, getting to know you a bit, having that low ego allows you to be like, hey, I'm not sitting here saying I'm right. Like, please, let's have this conversation so that we can make sure we get it as right as we can. And I think by combining those themes, yeah, the year ahead will be great. And I can't wait for us to catch up some more.
Well, I mean, the other thing is, I'm 57, he says, but I look up to my father-in-law is 86, and he's still learning. He takes courses. He's a retired research scientist. He does charity work. He socializes. He meets people. He learns. Every day is different.
Yeah.
And if I can, so I'm looking up to someone else.
Yeah.
And I think that keeps you younger.
Yeah, 100%. I do believe you use it or lose it. So let's keep pushing. Let's keep growing. Thank you so much for saying yes and making this such an enjoyable episode. And I think the insights and the story that you shared is testament to, wherever you start from in life doesn't have to be where you end up. Now, we're not saying you're not at the end, you're making progress, but no university within the family, going to university now over the last 20 plus years as a chief investment officer of, reputable investment management firms, giving back in the way that you've done. That's why I had to have you come and talk, because it's inspiring to me, and I really believe it'll be inspiring to other people as well. So thank you, Tony, once again, and can't wait to see you and chat untimed.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm just disappointed I didn't get any mantras out of you for another time.
Yeah, no, we have, like I said, we always go with the flow, and they come when they come. And today was not the day for excessive mantras, but it was just brilliant just to authentically just hear from you about your story and your journey. And yeah, I can't wait to play it back and get some of those nuggets in a more reflective space.
Well, thank you very much for the invite, and I look forward to seeing you soon.
All right, man. Take care. Have a great day. All right.
See you. Take care.
Cheers. Bye, Tony.